Have you ever thought about some of the most absurd ways that companies have tried to promote their games? Well, today on Tiny Voices, we're going to have some fun and look back at some disastrous marketing campaigns. The fact of the matter is, we're bombarded by marketing every single day. Ads, billboards, commercials, sponsored content, sneaky guerrilla tactics, celebrity endorsements, sponsorship plugs, product placement. Turn on the TV, you're going to see an ad. Open Twitch, you're going to see an ad. Even if you go outside, you're bound to run across an ad on a bus or a billboard. Even opening up this video, you'll have seen an ad before the content of the video even started to play. Marketing's a big business. Gaming is a nearly $100 billion industry, and that money exists thanks in part to marketing. The electronic entertainment design and research firm estimates that the influence of marketing has 3 times the impact that the influence of good review scores have on game sales. And companies are absolutely aware of that. That's why, for instance, Modern Warfare 2's marketing budget was 4 times the actual cost of developing the game. $200 million versus the $50 million that it actually cost to make it. And that big marketing budget paid off because Modern Warfare 2 took in over $1 billion in revenue as a result. But the success is not what we're focusing on today. Today we're focusing on what happens when these promotional stunts and marketing gimmicks go horribly awry. And we're gonna start with Acclaim. The early 2000s were a turbulent time for Acclaim. They teetered on the edge of bankruptcy for years, and Acclaim executive Steve Perry forged an unforgettable path forward for Acclaim. And he did so with some of the most controversial and ultimately damning PR moves in the history of the industry. For starters, they attempted to garner attention for 2002's sequel to Shadowman by offering to pay for people steeped in bereavement to use their tombstone of recently deceased loved ones as billboards for their game. They called this initiative Deadvertising and particularly aimed their efforts at the poor. At the time, one spokesperson said of the move that it could be a subsidy to burial costs to give their loved ones a good send-off. This tacky campaign wasn't the only time that they burst out the vertising suffix and attached it to something bizarre. Bloodvertising was Acclaim's term that they coined to promote Gladiator Sword of Vengeance for the PS2 and Xbox, a game billed as the bloodiest game ever. For this campaign, they placed leaky blood cartridges in bus shelters. These leaky cartridges would drip fake blood down the walls of the bus shelter and into the streets. Instead of promoting the game, they became more of a nuisance. And in probably the least tasteless and harmful marketing chicanery Acclaim pulled before filing for bankruptcy in 2004, the company promoted Turok Evolution's release by promising $10,000 to anyone willing to name their newborn baby Turok. Similarly, as an aside, Bethesda promised a lifetime supply of past and future Bethesda games to anyone who named their child Dovahkiin to promote the launch of Skyrim. Anyway, we're not quite done with Acclaim. In arguably one of their most baffling and legally dubious moves, the company promoted Burnout 2 by offering to pay for the speeding tickets of London motorists caught speeding on camera. EA also tried their hand at muscling in on the London-based vehicle-related tacky advertising with its attempts to raise awareness about Mercenaries 2 World in Flames. In that game, fuel shortage is a key motif. They offered free petrol at select gas stations in London. Predictably, traffic was brought to a crippling halt as lines of eager motorists extended far outside of the stations. In fact, EA has courted controversy with their marketing gimmicks nearly as often as Acclaim. For instance, let's start with some of the weird promotional items that they mailed out. They sent journalists disgusting meat through the mail to promote Bulletstorm. They sent illegal weapons through the mail in the form of brass knuckles to promote Godfather 2. And finally, in an act of what could, under the right light, be seen as bribery, EA mailed out themed checks for actual money to journalists to celebrate the sin of greed, one of the 7 deadly sins featured prominently in their 2010 release of Dante's Inferno. In fact, the marketing for Dante's Inferno could probably fill this episode on its own. In 2009, EA staged a fake religious protest to turn people's gazes towards the sinful Dante's Inferno. And later that year at Comic-Con, EA hired booth babes and encouraged convention goers to sin to win. They held a contest where one could win a, quote, sinful night with 2 hot girls, a limo service, paparazzi, and a chest full of booty. And how do you win? By committing the vaguely worded sin of lust with their booth babes. Now, the fine print did state that judges could disqualify entries for content that was, quote, inappropriate for any reason, including without limitation for depicting or mentioning sex, violence, drugs, alcohol, and or inappropriate language. In reality, what they were looking for were for people to take pictures with their booth babes and post them on social media. That doesn't make the implication in the objectification any less tacky here. And that about does it for EA. Now, moving to Sony hosted a promotional party for God of War 2 in 2007, where the centerpiece of the party was a disemboweled goat. Which really, I only mention as a segue for Capcom, who got in on the disgusting meat-based marketing gimmicks when promoting Resident Evil 6 with their Wesker & Son Human Butchery Butcher Shop, where patrons could purchase an array of meat billed as human flesh, which in reality was just a variety of beef, pork, and poultry. Also, this butcher shop was again located in London. Maybe I'll do an episode down the line on why all of these weird promotions seem to be centered in London. Could be a future topic. Anyway, that's not even the first time that Capcom pulled a publicity stunt like that for Resident Evil. Again, in London, the company hid fake replica body parts covered in slimy, uncooked chicken liver to give the impression of being more realistic all over the city. They set this up as a treasure hunt. Find the body parts, win a vacation to Africa where the game was set. Aside from being kind of tasteless and wasting the time of local authorities who were called when passers-by mistook the replica limbs for actual human remains, some people just absconded with the fake body parts. They just took them and left. Capcom had to issue a statement asking for their fake body parts to be returned to them. This next one has nothing to do with Capcom, and it requires a little bit of setup. In 1983, in the midst of tensions brought on by the Cold War, German band Nina released a song that translates as 99 balloons. The song carried a strong anti-war message wherein a child releases 99 balloons into the air, which are subsequently mistaken for an aerial threat and are shot down. The show of force is taken as hostile aggression and results in another nation retaliating, and this results in a devastating nuclear war. Since then, 99 Red Balloons was released as an adaptation of that popular song, and the symbolism of red balloons has carried forward into today. In March of 2011, Trash Talk CFM, a marketing firm working with THQ, tried to promote Homefront by releasing 10,000 red balloons in San Francisco. The bulk of them, due to weather conditions at the time, wound up in the San Francisco Bay, posing hazards to local wildlife. The company later incurred a $7,000 fine for the stunt. And while nobody read too much into the symbolism, something that did get people worried about an actual potential bombing was when a mysterious safe was mailed to the offices of Australian media outlet 9MSN. When staff members attempted to open the safe, it began loudly beeping. The building was then evacuated in fear that the safe contained a bomb, and bomb squads were dispatched to the scene. The safe was eventually opened, where the contents were revealed to be a copy of Ubisoft's Watchdogs. And that wasn't the first time that one of Ubisoft's marketing stunts caused panic like that. In Auckland, New Zealand, an actor brandished a fake gun at patrons of a pub. This was somehow supposed to be viral marketing to promote Splinter Cell Conviction, but all it really did was result in the police being called to deal with reports of a man brandishing a firearm. So that's a sampling of some of the insane attempts marketing firms have made to promote games in the past. It's certainly not an exhaustive list though. There are way more minor campaigns like the scavenger hunt for the Mass Effect copies that were launched into the atmosphere, Square's shady Own Your Own Island contest for Just Cause 2, Dead Space 2's Scare Your Mom campaign, Hitman's Kill Your Friends app, or the old infamous Ocarina of Time Willst Thou Get the Girl or Play Like One commercial. Dodgy marketing campaigns are ubiquitous, but most of these were excluded because they pale in comparison to the baffling and sometimes dangerous nature of the campaigns featured in this video. So that's gonna be it for this week's Tiny Voices. Hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching everyone, take it easy, have a good one.